Never in doubt. Hearts of Midlothian 2, Kilmarnock 1, and Hearts progressed to the League Cup semi-final, where the opponents not known yet because all the rest of the games take place on Wednesday evening, but we do know that it'll be either the November the 4th or 5th. Hearts were due to play Dundee that weekend, but nope. Hearts will be heading back to Hampden after Alex Lowry produced a moment of magic, sent the away crowds delirious, one of those, and it meant that we did not have to go through another 30 minutes of the game and get back at a ridiculous time. So there was many things to be happy with overall. Before we dig into the nitty gritty details, what was your overall assessment, James?
I think it was a much more convincing performance than, obviously the game at the weekend against St Mirren. I think that, I think we saw some players come into the team, like the likes of George Grant, who I thought was very good, scores an excellent goal. But even aside from that, you can see with his link-up play, he just had that bit more creativity in the middle. Obviously, you get Lowry coming off the bench and scoring that late goal. Offia having a good hand in it as well. Again, another substitute. So there's quite a few players that I think came into the team tonight and gave a good acquittal of themselves. But I think most importantly of all, it was the fact that Hearts could have easily lost that game on another day. And the fact that, what I mean by that is they went to go up, then Kelly draw level. Things got tough. The rain starts lashing down. Kelly, the momentum's with Kelly. Yep. They're going for it. They've had the better of the second half, and yet Hearts dug in and got that win. And that's, we were saying before the game, it'd be nice to get one of those battling wins where it's just you don't have, it doesn't have to be necessarily pretty all the time, although both goals very, very pretty.
Yeah. But
it was just nice to see them really dig in and get a result and out fighting the opposition, which is nice to see. Nice to have those battling qualities back.
Yeah, that was a big thing. I mean, there was a lot of there was a lot to like about the first half performance, but the second half performance, that it showed that Hearts were capable of digging in and doing that, doing the Scottish football basics. I think there was a few question marks with Naismith when he made the change, and he took he took off. Who did he take off? And he went to a back three with
Alan Forrest.
Alan Forrest, of course, he came off. He was quite ineffectual, and then he brought Fye on, and we went to a back three. And it's not really worked on that when he's made that change. Didn't work on Saturday against St Mirren, but it provided a bit more steel and robust, because Kilmarnock scored with the way that they usually do, with one of the wingers cutting in, crossing. It was midfield this time. Brad Lyons getting onto the cross and heading in. And at that point, Kelly are up. They are in the ascendancy, and Hearts are going to have kind of backs to the wall job. You look at Hearts, some of the defending, the way they've dealt with the physical side of games. Are they capable of kind of defending their 18-yard box? And they certainly were in the second half, deep into the second half, and it gave them a platform to allow Lowry to score that goal, because it looked like it was going to extra time, and you're kind of apprehensive because you had Neuenhoff, who we'll come on to speak about, had a great game. Neuenhoff had gone down, he'd gone off. It looked like Kingsley was struggling a bit, and you're just wondering, a lot of heavy legs, and with Kelly home in the ascendancy, that it would be a difficult 30 minutes to get through. But because of that, the defensive rearguard, the steel showing, the grit, when the ball went forward and Fire got forward, Shanklin got forward, Boyce got forward, and then Lowry got forward and produced that excellent finish. And it is. We'll come on to talk about the ramifications of it being a massive win. So let's go back to the start and the first half in general. For the first time in a while, Hearts, I mean, you could argue the Aberdeen game, but there was still a slow start there. I actually thought it was a really positive, energetic start to pre-seasons.
No, definitely. I mean, I think particularly the first 10 minutes or so, I think Hearts did actually start really strong. There's a couple of really nice passive moves, a bit of fluidity as well, which I think's been missing. And then as a sort of throughout the half as it wore on, I think we saw there was a lot of fluidity and movement. There's a lot of nice one-touch passing at times, with some of the counter attacks. So some of them were really nice. And to be fair, I think George Grant was at the heart of most of that. I think it was great though as well, and obviously with the goal where it starts off with Neuenhoff sort of breaking the lines and driving forward. Mm-hmm. He ends up, misplacing his pass, gets dispossessed, the ball gets lumped clear. Then Rouse gets the ball, does the exact same thing, and the leads to a goal, lo and behold. And again, like these are the sort of things where we've not seen that enough. We've not seen enough of defenders, carrying the ball out from the back, beating their man and advancing into space, forcing the opposition to do something to like, try and draw a man. We've not seen that enough in defence, and we've certainly not seen enough from the base of midfield either. So I think that's exactly what we're all hoping to see from the Hoff, and and he's delivered.
Yeah, because it's we may as well. You talked to him, but we may as well talk about Neuenhoff just now. Is the fact that Stephen Naismith in his press conference, which you can read everything Naismith said on heartstandard.co.uk or listen to his interview on YouTube. He picked him out as the best player on the park, and it was a different midfield performance than we've seen by a Hearts midfielder at any point this season, where he was getting on the ball. And I turned to you at one point, it was like sometimes he was driving on, you think he's about to do something great, and it kind of just broke down, but he showed that willingness to get on the ball and drive the team forward, which has been kind of sorely lacked. And you can see a player hopefully settling into the rhythm of Scottish football now, the rhythm of his teammates. Naismith picked him out before the St Mirren game. It's like he's noticed a difference in training, that he's always demanding the ball, and that came to fruition. And it was positive, because we spoke before the game about maybe being a bit more aggressive and trying to do something a bit more positive. Even if you lose the ball, you can still win it high up the park, and it's going to disrupt Kelly. And that's what Hearts done a lot in the first half.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. That's exactly how the goal came around, But I think with Neuenhoff, I think the parts that were impressive, where there's at least 3, possibly even 4 times where he'd get the ball into feet with Kelly player breathing down his neck, and it'd be a lovely wee touch, a lovely wee shift of balance, and all of a sudden he's driving forward. And I think a couple of those drives forward ends up him eventually getting caught, or maybe he should have made the ball after that. But that initial wee turn, that initial wee burst forward, that's what Hearts have been crying out for all season. And I think that's a really encouraging sign. I think as well. Credit needs to go to Stephen Naismith as well, because when we start looking into the second half, and like we say, at one point, Kelly pull it back, the momentum goes with them, the crowd's roaring them on, the rain's lashing down, and all of a sudden, it's looking like it's going to be quite difficult. And I think bringing off and switching it to the back three, just settling things down for the remainder of the game. That, like you said, that provided the platform for Hearts to go on and win the game. And I think that was actually quite. I think again, it was a really sensible move from Naismith, because again, it took the sting out of the game a little bit at a time when Kelly were really threatening. Because after that point, I mean, I might be wrong, but I don't remember them having too many chances at 1-1.
No, I mean, Clark had a couple of, so he had the save from Kennedy in the first half, and then he had the tip round the post in the second half, which came prior to the goal. But they didn't really they had territory, but without actually doing anything with it.
Exactly. And I think as well that I think because in the first half in particular, I think there was one or two occasions where Vassell looked to have got the better of Rose or Kent. And that was obviously a bit of a concern, but I think that, obviously bringing Civic then infield, you give him that extra man in there, it just ended up, it basically kind of kept him out of the game from that point on, and I think that, Naismith deserves a lot of credit for that. And then obviously we've got Lowry's impact where, he's only on the park for a minute, and
steady. We'll come to Lowry. We'll come to Lowry, and he's got his goal first. And I think it's important to go back and talk about George Grant, because you seem to be really, really impressed with George Grant. I thought he was, without being spectacular, he was a real positive influence in the final third, and you could see that Shankland really responded to him really well. They combined for the goal, but it was encouraging to see if Shankland dropped, George Grant was willing to run in behind, or he was willing to get close to the striker, which is important when you have someone like Shankland who is not going to run in behind himself. No,
absolutely, and I think it was his movement most of all. I think that impressed me was he was, like you say, he was constantly occupying spaces where he could receive the ball, and then he was able to have the composure to take a touch and start driving it. Driving the opposition. I think his passing was largely pretty good as well. I think obviously when you're passing it around the final third,
you're going to lose the ball. You're going
to have a relatively low success rate, but I think that actually he did pretty well. I mean, obviously we need to check out the stats afterwards, but I was really impressed with that, and I think his awareness as well. There was times where he was spotting these runs of whether it be Vargas or Shankland, and I think that again that played a really big. I just think that Hearts just looked so much more threatening, I think, today in the final third.
Yep.
And I think that Grant was really kind of at the heart of a lot of it. I was really impressed with him today. And, for a guy that's not played much football this season, I think that, he's given Naismith something to think about now going forward, because that was a really composed performance. And, I think that he's kind of brought what Hearts have been lacking in a lot of these games, and I think that I think that's all credit to him. I think it's been a really great performance and a really encouraging one that Hearts fans can take a lot of encouragement from.
Yeah, but it's important to say yes. It should be encouraging. It's a really good performance, but it should act as the platform for Grant to now go and have the career at Hearts that many hoped or expected he would have, just because he was so successful down south. He scored a lot of goals. He saw that with his finish that he's going to be a threat in the final third. He's not been played in his best position or consistently in his best position. He's been in and out. He was essentially told he could leave this summer. It didn't quite happen. Naismith said in his post-match interview that he's a fan of Grant. It's just like one of these things that he needed to see more, and he certainly showed a hell of a lot more. And it's something that Hearts fans have been calling for, is that bit of creativity in the midfield, a wee bit of kind of penetration through the centre of the pitch in midfield. And I do think Grant epitomised a lot of that, and I just felt the performance in the first half especially was just more. There was more purpose to it. There was more energy to it. There was more aggression in possession, where the team wanted to get forward, and then players who weren't out the ball, weren't in possession, were getting forward. Even at the end of the first half, when you think, right, just sit in, take the 1-0, get into half time, and just regroup. There were still 4 or 5 players trying to get in the box, and even early on, you had Kingsley and Forrest combined on the left-hand side. You had Vargas, Shankland and Grant combined. You had Kingsley putting a ball into Shankland, and Vargas were in the box. And there was a lot more positive signs. I mean, it's without trying to get carried away, but having gone from what we've seen recently to that, it's a hell of a lot. It's a hell of a step up.
Definitely, and I think even particularly in the first half, we saw. I remember at one point turning to you and we were talking about the goal kicks, where basically, obviously Hearts were playing it short, and during the first half, the goal kicks, the Kelly attacking midfielder pushed right up. Basically, meant that it was 4v4.
Yeah,
every goal kick whenever it was eventually shuttled long. I think again Shankland and Grant were playing quite cleverly in that. So basically Clark would pass it to Rose or Kent, they'd pass it back to Clark, and then Clark would hoof it. And what Shankland and Grant would do is whenever the Clark first plays the initial pass, they would drop it deep into midfield, opening up a big huge gap in the middle that then Vargas and Forrest would then try to fill. It never quite paid off, and they stopped doing it after maybe about half an hour or so, but you could definitely see the logic there and thinking of it. And again, it's like it was just nice to see players committing, and really Hearts getting bodies forward. I mean, there was one point towards the end of the first half when Hearts were breaking forward, and there was something like 4 or 5 Hearts players up against 3 or 4 Kelly players. It was probably a wee bit rushed in the end, but it's something that we've just not seen too much of again. Like I think the counter attack in particular from Hearts tonight was really good. I think that's something that obviously has been a concern, because at times they've been accused of being pedestrian. Well, because they have been being pedestrian, that's why. But I think at times tonight they've really got the ball. They got the ball from back to front very quickly, and there's all the kind of one-touch passing and stuff as well. And they made I think they were very aware of the fact that the back 4 for Kelly were they're 4 centre halves, and when you start playing at balls quickly and that, you can then peel it, spin your man and start getting in behind, and that does free up space. So no, I think that again, it'll be interesting to see whether or not this can be carried on into the county game, because it'll be a different set of challenges. Yeah. But I think I think the players understood exactly
what was asked, what was required of them.
Yeah, exactly. What Kilmarnock are all about, and this is how you hurt them. And I think they did that. I think they carried out very well.
Yeah, we'll come on to speak about what's next, but I'll let you speak about Alex Lowry's goal now. It was just because you were just thinking it was a good counter attack, and then you're just thinking the opportunity just passes by. Liam Boyce had a kind of scuffed effort. You think he's been crowded out, and other than Shankland, it's probably the other player you'd want in possession of the ball in the box was Alex Lowry, just because of his close control, his technique, his vision, and his composure.
Absolutely. I mean, does they even have the composure for the drag back? So many players wouldn't bother with that. So many players would just hit it first time and just without even really looking at it and just seeing what happened. But Lowry takes time to get the ball. I think there's 3 touches in total. I think the first one he touches it, the second with the drag back, and then the third's obviously the shot. As Naismith said in his post-match interview as well, there wasn't much goal to aim at. There was the entire left-hand side of the goal was taken up by a few players in the goalie. There's still a man at the right, at the far post as well. You're sliding in, so to find that wee pocket of space is brilliant. But even before that, even before the goal, I mean, he was almost. Very almost played in. So basically, there was a ball in the midfield where I think it was his first touch of the ball, and he was kind of drifting inwards, and Offia was totally free in the right line, and we couldn't quite get there. Obviously, I was trying to get there, but he couldn't quite do it, and he kind of felt like, that was close, because like if Offia gets the ball, they're basically in.
But what he did was when the ball was lost, he went back and won it.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly that. So again, like for being on the pitch for a minute or so up to that point, if that. I mean, it's a tremendous impact, and like you say, there aren't many players in this Hearts team who I think would have that presence of mind and that coolness, and that composure to really think about what they're doing to create that little space, create that little angle, and then to actually follow through with it as well. So it's again very great to see it. That's his first goal for the club as well. Yeah. Obviously, nice to get that ticked off. And particularly after I think his last few appearances, he's struggled to get into the game.
Yeah.
So I think it's really nice to see him, make an impact, and hopefully he can kick on from there.
And I think that's a big thing for basically collectively and individually, but more so the likes of Grant and Lowry, is that you see glimpses, and it's like, as Nathan said, you need to see that consistently, and as a whole, they need to take this performance on to Ross County. I mean, going up to Ross County losing it wouldn't make this result redundant, because the win has allowed the team to progress to the League Cup semi-final and a big day at Hampden Park. But in terms of the trajectory of the team and the momentum, it means nothing if they don't go up to Ross County and get a positive result, if not a positive performance, even if it was a draw, but a really good performance going into the derby. Like defeat would just suck the kind of that sliver of feel good factor back out and going into the derby. So it's really important that this team take the confidence from not just to win, but getting to Hampden, to go up to Ross County, who play Aberdeen tomorrow night, and lay another marker down. Right, we can win back-to-back away games. We can win an away game in the league, and then we can win games when the opposition will be probably quite robust. They'll probably play by a back three, a midfield five. So it's so important that this is a start rather than just another good result mixed in with a lot of poor performances and results.
No, definitely. You're absolutely right. I mean, I think, the fact that it's a victory away from home, that in itself is huge tonight. I think that in itself, is a bit of a monkey off the players' backs in a sense. Like you say, now they got a chance to follow up against County. It'll be an interesting game, because I think County are quite top heavy in that. I think they're quite decent up front. Yeah, I'm not entirely convinced by them at the back. So it should be an interesting game. I think we'll see Kent and Rose tested again by the likes of Brophy or White. Murray or White. Oh God, White. Yeah. I've forgotten about him for a second. Yeah. So that'll be one where it'll be again that will be a big test, because again at times both Kent and Rose today, I think they had one or two incidents where Vassell seemed to have the better of them once or twice. Yeah.
So, the good thing is I think Rose is better playing against someone like Simon Murray.
Yeah.
Or if he's going to run in behind, and play that have the ball on the deck, whereas Kent, I think, is capable of dealing with Jordan White. Whereas tonight, Vassell, I think Vassell is really interesting. I think he's turned out to be a really good player, a really good focal point, and the type of striker that probably Hearts lack as an option, and the type of striker you probably need in Scottish football. In that he's big and physical, he's mobile, he can run the channels, he can link play, he can go behind. Don't think he'll score that many goals. I think his finishing's a wee bit erratic, but I think that's the kind, like Olasanya as well. He can run in behind. He can run the channels. He can be physical. That's the type of player that Rose has largely struggled against.
Yeah, no, it has been guys who are big units, big lumps. He doesn't like them.
No,
not one bit.
Not one bit. I think it's worthwhile updating on Cammy Devlin that he got taken off at half time. We asked if it was a tactical decision or it was a kind of injury concern, but it just seems that Devlin wasn't feeling too good going into the game and wasn't feeling too good at half time. And Naismith just thought, in a game of this nature, this manner, he had to be taken off because, of course, he got a head knock, as Ian Moss says on Facebook. In the St Mirren game, he had 4 stitches, it might just be. But Naismith was asked if it was kind of concussion or head related, and he said it wasn't. He said it wasn't feeling well. So we'll see how that develops. I think Neuenhoff was just a case of tiredness towards the end.
I would think so. Yeah. Also, the fact as well that obviously Neuenhoff and Haring were the two sitting midfielders, both
on a yellow.
Both on a yellow.
Both of us turned when we made that noise when the Haring came steaming into midfield. You're like, just stay on your feet, and he did, thankfully, on a booking.
God, I know.
Deary me.
But the sad thing, obviously Haring's been brought on, so it's like, well, one of them's going to have to come off.
Yeah.
So it's ended up being Neuenhoff. But again, no, I think that that moment when Haring was steaming forward was terrifying because it's already on a book and he's like, no, he's going to do it again.
Even just slipping and taking him out, that nightmare.
But thankfully he behaved himself, which is nice.
Before I ask you if you've got anything else to chat about, we may as well talk about, we touched on it before the game, about the fan banners that have been in Gorgie and Tynecastle. Some of the fans unveiled a banner just before the game. I think everyone who watched the game will have seen it because Fireplay showed it, and it was tweeted out, and it's been everywhere. Just about how fans put loads of money in. They don't feel the club is being. They feel the club is being run by clowns, and that the fans deserve better. One thing I would say is that. I wrote about it on Sunday. The fans do deserve better than what's happened over certainly the last 9 months with I think it was basically 9 wins in 29, and just the direction of the team hasn't been what's been expected or what's wanted. But one thing I would say is that afterwards the support from the away end was tremendous. So just the backing throughout, it was like there's been a lot of criticism put around. There's been a lot of debate, a lot of discussion, but the big thing is that whether it was St Mirren on Saturday there, it was tonight, the fans have got behind the players throughout the whole 90 minutes on both occasions.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, that's right. I mean, there's the banner, but it's very much aimed at the board.
Yeah,
the players were going up at the end, applauding them. The fans were going nuts and celebrating. It was really nice to see. It's nice to see that. Well, there's going to be fans that are unhappy with the way the club's being run at the top level. It's nice to know that they're still making that distinction though, and they're making sure that they're able to protest those people rather than the players themselves. Because again, it does help the team to perform. It has to, and you'd have to think it would have an effect if that anger or that frustration was taken out on the players instead. So that was really nice to see. And there's a couple of videos up on our Twitter feed of the Hearts fans celebrating the goals, and particularly Lowry's one. It looked pretty great. The way end looked absolutely fantastic.
James, we scored in just 2 of our 6 league games so far. So just any goal is going to go. Is going to provoke a strong positive reaction. Before we finish up, do you think is there anything else you think that's worthy of discussion?
I don't think so. Not off the top of my head.
think
I think that's it for now. I think that's.
It's been quite warm, which is a surprise, but we're not going to talk about the weather. So we will finish it up there, so we can get back along the road. Thank you very much for your continued support. All the reaction is on this site. You can subscribe for £1 for 6 months, £12 for 12 months. You can read all the reaction, keep. I don't know what I was going to say. I've just lost my train of thought. So I'm going to say goodbye.